Justice in the soul. Socrates proposes that an individual person has the same kind of internal complexity as the city that he has just described. That is, a person has a part that is fit to rule, a part that is fit to be its helper or ally, and a part that can't be trusted with any authority and is only fit to be ruled. More specifically, he says that it is the person's soul that has these three parts. Soul here translates the Greek word psyche, from which our term psychology derives. According to the tripartite psychology of the Republic, each of us has the following internal parts. There is the part of us that desires and wants, likes and dislikes. That's like the producing class in the city. There's the part of us that gets angry and emotional, that stands up to aggression. That's like the military class in the city. And then there's the part of us that's in charge, or should be in charge, the part that thinks about what is better and worse, right and wrong, that can take a long-term view. That's analogous to the ruling class in the city. You may crave a cigarette or a drink, but decide that it's a bad idea to indulge. That's your reasoning part saying no to your repetitive part. Or you may be seething at an insult and yearn to strike back, while your better judgment says, wait, count to 10, or let it go. That's your reason restraining your spirited part. Or you may have urges that you are ashamed to admit. That's your spirited part combating your appetites. Now, if appetite, spirit, and reason remind you of Freud's id, superego, and ego, that's not an accident, because Freud read Plato and was obviously influenced by him. So, back to the tripartite psychology in the Republic. We become vividly aware of the complexity within us when our different soul parts conflict, as in the examples I've just given, which are pretty much the same ones that Socrates himself invokes in Book 4 of the Republic to argue that we are tripartite, just like the city. But experiencing such conflict is not inevitable or desirable. Even if your better judgment can win the battle against your desire for a cigarette, or if your sense of shame can restrain you from acting in ways you will later regret, wouldn't it be better not to have to struggle in the first place? Socrates agrees. He likens conflicts between the parts of one's soul to civil war, stasis, within the soul, a terrible and unfortunately pervasive problem in the city-states in Plato's day. Now, properly functioning souls will be ones in which there is no civil war. Reason will rule without a struggle, and appetites and emotions will be in line with reason's judgments about what is best. This is not to say that a properly functioning soul will never experience strong emotion or will never indulge grand appetites. Far from it. They will do so when reason judges that it is appropriate, but will never experience conflict or any subsequent regrets. In such a harmonious internal condition of a soul, each part will be doing what it is good at. Reason will be ruling. The spirited part, the emotional part, will be supporting and enforcing reason's judgments, and the appetites will be pursuing the various projects and enjoyments that make up our daily lives. Contrast this with a soul where the appetitive part tries to rule, or the spirited part tries to usurp reason's place. This is a soul full of conflict, regularly defeating its own purposes, rarely able to act on its better judgment, full of turmoil and regret. No one wants to live like that, Socrates proposes, and Glaucon and Anaximander agree. But that's what the soul of the unjust person is like, Socrates says. This undesirable and dysfunctional condition of the psyche is injustice, and the contrasting high-functioning and harmonious psychology is justice. More specifically, he says, justice is a condition of the soul in which each part, appetite, spirit, and reason, does the job for which it is naturally suited and refrains from meddling in the business of the others. Justice, so defined, is an intrinsically desirable condition of the psyche, for reasons that have nothing to do with having a reputation for justice, either among gods or among fellow human beings. And recall, that's just what Glaucon and Anaximander asked Socrates to establish about justice at the beginning of Book 2. Moreover, on this picture, justice turns out to be good in a very special and important way. This is the point Glaucon makes at the culmination of the argument towards the end of Book 4, where he compares the unjust soul to a ruined body. He says, "Life does not seem worth living when the body's natural constitution is ruined, not even if one has food and drink of every sort, all the money in the world, and every political office imaginable. So how, even if one could do whatever one wished, except what would liberate one from vice and injustice and make one acquire justice and virtue, how could it be worth living when the natural constitution of the very thing by which we live is ruined and in turmoil?" In other words, justice is not simply something that's good to have, whose value can be compared to the value of other things. As for example, one might say, yes, it would be great to have justice. I'd like to have a harmonious condition of the soul, but I can still do better by gaining lots of money and power. This would be to suppose that the value of justice is commensurable with other goods, that it can be compared with them. But justice, as Socrates is defining it, is a necessary condition for any of those other things being good. It's necessary for getting any benefit out of things like wealth and power. With a ruined soul, life is not worth living, and no amount of wealth and power can make it so. So we can summarize Socrates' argument as follows. Step 1. Justice is a condition of the soul in which reason rules, spirit acts as its ally, and the appetites are governed by both. Step 2. Injustice is a condition of insurrection, of strife and turmoil in the soul. So, step 3, an unjust soul is a ruined soul. 4. Life is not worth living with a ruined soul, no matter how much wealth, power, and so forth that one has. 5. So justice is always preferable to injustice. What do you think of this argument? Has Socrates convinced you that it is never a good idea to commit theft or other acts of injustice?